BetOnline continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all of the action and the ability to watch games as they happen. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, the NBA, college basketball, NHL to UFC, head to BetOnline today and don't forget to use code BELIEVE, BLEAV, for your welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, the game starts here. What's up, everybody? It's your host, Bucky Brooks, and this is the Bucky Brooks Show, where we talk about everything regarding the NFL. And the NFL had a great weekend. We had an opportunity to see some of the top teams take on each other, and so we're going to discuss all of those things. We even had an opportunity, even though it's not directly an NFL thing, but the Heisman Trophy was awarded to Travis Hunter. So we have a little snippet of that and what Travis Hunter should do when he makes his way to the National Football League. But the first thing I want to start off with is just talking about the Kansas City Chiefs. Everyone is upset about the Kansas City Chiefs and what is going on with the Chiefs. Pat Mahomes just got hurt. He had to leave the game against the Cleveland Browns. And, man, the sky is falling. Everyone has been worried about the Chiefs, but I sit and I look at the standings, and they're 13-1. They have home field advantage for the playoffs if they continue to do what they normally do, which is win. Pat Mahomes, they say it's a high ankle sprain. And the one thing that we know about 15 always shows up when there's a game. Like, this is a guy who is reliable, dependable, and even though that ankle sprain may trouble him, he knows what it means to the team. He also knows the importance of playing at home. Expect Pat Mahomes to show up and be okay for the Kansas City Chiefs. He may not be able to run around and do some of the improvisational stuff that he's been doing late in games, but he's going to show up for his team. He's going to make sure he manages the game. He's going to make sure that the Chiefs are in a position to win and really secure home field, because he looks in the rearview mirror. He sees that the Buffalo Bills are coming. Pat Mahomes wants to make sure that the Kansas City Chiefs are positioned to be the number one seed in the tournament. So don't worry about the Kansas City Chiefs. Pat Mahomes will be okay. Andy Reid will get them right. And despite their issues on the offensive line, I expect to see the Kansas City Chiefs as the last team standing when it's all said and done. Now, that's a little something about the Kansas City Chiefs, but let's go to the most important part. This is the segment where we call Four Downs, where we can take on four of the hottest topics that came out from the weekend. And look, man, on first down, we got to talk about Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills and how they are coming. And they are coming fast. I know I talked about the Kansas City Chiefs in the first segment, but Josh Allen and the Bills are coming, and they're coming because Josh Allen is playing at an MVP level. I talked about Josh Allen being an MVP last week. We talked about how well he is doing. Well, in a showcase performance against the Detroit Lions, he let us know why he legitimately is the most valuable player and why the Buffalo Bills should be feared as long as number 17 is available. Against the Detroit Lions, Josh Allen extended a streak of, 5 straight seasons where he's had 35 combined touchdowns. Like, passing and rushing, he has topped that mark 5 straight years. He just broke the record that was previously held by Brett Favre. 4 straight years, he had 3 MVP seasons during that span. Well, Josh Allen just surpassed that. And what's more remarkable about Josh Allen and the feat that he just accomplished, there have only been 4 times in NFL history where a quarterback has had at least 25 passing touchdowns and 10 rushing touchdowns. He has done it twice. The 2 other guys who do it, Cam Newton and Kyler Murray. That speaks to his greatness as a spectacular playmaker, as a runner and receiver. The reason why I say you need to fear the Buffalo Bills because Josh Allen and this squad is coming is because as he goes, so goes this team. And in the last 2 weeks, we've seen this team put 40 burgers on playoff teams. And even though it's not perfect or ideal for the offense to score 40 points and then the defense to also give up 40, what it does is it tells me that offensively, this team can turn any game into a shootout. And we look at the Buffalo Bills over the course of the season, there haven't been many teams that have been able to slow them down. And when you look at the firepower that they have on the outside, there's nothing that you're worried about. Yeah, I love Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid, but the rest of their playmakers are just okay. They don't stand out. They wouldn't be all pros on their own accord, but number 17 kind of makes it go. And what offensive coordinator Joe Brady has done is he's really worked with Josh Allen to kind of teach him and show him when to kind of insert himself into the game as a superhero and when to kind of dial it back and just allow the offense to work for him. And when you think about the 7th-year pro maturing and really settling into his game, he is doing what elite quarterbacks do. They understand the moment. They know when they need to take it over. And his take over the game potential, I would say, man, there's only a few guys that can match that. Pat Mahomes and Lamar Jackson would be the only ones that come to mind in terms of being able to take the game over as a runner and receiver. And because of that, the Buffalo Bills are dangerous. Most times, I would say that the Buffalo Bills would need to secure home field because playing at home, playing in the cozy confines of their stadium in the blustery weather would be advantageous. But I don't know if I necessarily agree with that right now. When I look at Josh Allen and the way that he has been able to play the last 2 weeks in climate control conditions, first in SoFi Stadium against the LA Rams, then at Ford Field against the Detroit Lions, I don't know. Maybe I want him to play on a fast track. Maybe I want him to play outside of Western New York because it might give him an opportunity to really showcase his skills. Now, the thing is, none of the warm weather teams are really going to be in the tournament where they can have home field. But and watching how well he plays on a fast track, I just kind of long for the days that the Buffalo Bills play in an environment that he doesn't have to worry about the weather, the wind, or any of those things, that he can just be the special player. Because if he is able to dominate as a one-man show, what he does is he makes everybody better. The defense now doesn't have to worry about a team playing ground and pound against them because they have to chase points. And when you look at the undersized defense that the Buffalo Bills has, that really takes away probably their biggest vulnerability, their biggest weakness. Because Josh Allen and the offense is so good, their offense is their best defense. And if this offense continues to play at this rate, it really won't matter about the defense because the Buffalo Bills would be the team that we're talking about challenging the Kansas City Chiefs in the end. But before we talk about which team should challenge the Kansas City Chiefs as the best team in the AFC, I'm going to tell you the best team is in the NFC. And that best team is the Philadelphia Eagles. And I know last week we saw the Philadelphia Eagles bickering. We heard A.J. Brown upset because the ball wasn't going his way. We saw his teammate, his buddy, his fellow wide receiver, Davante Smith, also upset because the ball wasn't going his way. And there's a saying, sometimes the squeaky wheel gets the grease. And evidently, the pouting and the whining and crying certainly made an impact on the game plan because when I watched the Philadelphia Eagles take on the Pittsburgh Steelers, the ball certainly headed the way of Smith and Brown. Both of those guys put 100 yards up on the stat sheet. They had outstanding games. And even though the stat line wasn't like eye popping, the fact that you can have two wide receivers on the perimeter go for 100 yards speaks volumes about the potency of that offense. When I look at Brown and Smith, both guys can play the role as interchangeable number one receivers. That makes it really, really difficult for the defense to be able to get a bead on the Eagles' passing game. And even though Jalen Hurts talked about, we just want to put a little water on the passing grain, let it grow a little bit, expand it. I love that, and I love the way that they were to handle it. But the reason why the Eagles are the best team in football is because they check off the boxes in terms of the requisite qualities that you must have to be a championship team. Great teams are built in the trenches, and so you got to be able to control the game at the line of scrimmage, offensive line, defensive line. When I look at the Eagles' O-line, look best in football. We can talk about the Detroit Lions challenging them for that throne, but you don't lead the league in rushing yards without having a dominant offensive line. The Eagles, number one in rush yards per game, 186 yards per game they're getting. And I know we talk about Saquon Barkley being great, but really it's the combination of Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts and some of the read option stuff that they're doing that really challenges and tests the discipline of the defense, but it's also that front line blowing people off the ball and just kind of imposing their will. When we talk about the old championship formula, about being able to run the ball, score on explosive plays in the passing game, the Eagles have that. So they can control the game with Barkley and Hurts getting it done on the ground. They can score points through the air because Davante Smith and A.J. Brown are able to get after it when they win their one-on-one matchups. And then they can close it out because they have the number one defense in football. Vic Fangio has transformed a unit that was underachieving a year ago into a salty dog unit that really gets after the opponent. And thinking about Vic Fangio and what they've been able to do, one, they're in better condition than they were a season ago. Two, they play much harder than they did last year. They run to the ball, they finish at the ball, they have a level of physicality that didn't exist in previous years. And they've kind of embraced his, I would say, edgy coaching style, and it's reflected in the way that they play. Look, it's not always what you want to see when you're a coach and your team is kind of involved in dust ups, but part of that is kind of the identity of the Philadelphia Eagles. Yeah, you look at Darius Slay and he gets after it because Darnell Washington was kind of blocking him and doing that. You saw Jalen Carter kind of get into it and slap people around. But if you're going to be a team that prides themselves and kind of being the bully, maybe the Broad Street bullies in Philly, you got to live with that. And people go up and they line up on both sides of the fence when it comes to Nick Sirianni. Do you like him? Don't you like him? Or whatever. But what I can say is his coaching style works for this team. Um, whether we call it the competitive arrogance that he displays, it works and it resonates for this squad. And a week ago, I talked about worrying about them because they're kind of bickering and those things. But honestly, when you think about a team being reflective of the city, that's kind of what Philly is, right? Philly's kind of contentious, kind of ornery, kind of whatever. Remember, they talked about throwing snowballs at Santa Claus. So this team really reflects the city. And look, man, I hate to say it, but man, this team looks like the best team in football. And if home field has to go through the link, good luck knocking off the Eagles. They are the most talented and most complete team in football, and I think they're beginning to show it, particularly during this win streak. Uh, don't look now, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are for real. And I never thought that I would say that about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers just based on how they were in the middle of the year. This was a team that was really struggling heading into the bye week. They were right around 500. They would lose 4, win 4, couldn't figure out what their identity was. They were kind of bitten by the injury bug. Chris Godwin was out for the year, and a team that appeared to be a passing team lost some weapons that I just didn't know if they would be able to overcome. Man, was I wrong. Since the bye week, this team has reeled off 4 straight wins. They're doing it in impressive fashion, but they're doing it in a very diverse way, different than the way that we thought this team was constructed. The last 4 games, this team has had over 150 rushing yards. They're running the ball right at people. There's a physicality to this team that I don't know if we knew existed. I mean, they go out to LA and they mollywop the LA Chargers. I mean, 40-17, a score that probably wasn't even as close as that indicated, and they ran through them. And when you think about what the Chargers were going into that game, top defense that really didn't concede a lot of yards, particularly when it became a physical affair. The Buccaneers bullying the bullies to me was really impressive. And it's not only that they were impressive because they've been able to run the football like that is a bit of a surprise, but yeah, they were able to run the football with a patchwork offensive line and guys all over, whether it's Bucky Irving and others kind of playing Rashard White playing in spot duty. They've been able to run the football. But I would say like I didn't think that Baker Mayfield would continue to be able to dazzle without all of his weapons around him. When you think about Mike Evans being kind of like a one-man show on the perimeter, being able to go for 159 yards, 2 touchdowns, being able to have the best game of the season against a team that knew that the ball was going to him through the air. To me, it speaks to the brilliance of offensive coordinator Liam Cohen in terms of creating big play opportunities for their number one playmaker. It also speaks volumes about what Baker Mayfield has become down in Tampa. 2 years ago, man, this dude was a journeyman. We didn't even know where he would end up. He was a bit of a vagabond going from Carolina to then the Rams to finding his way to Tampa. But, man, he is settled in there. And he also is having a really impressive season. Not quite MVP-like, but when you think about a 70% completion rate, 3,600 passing yards, 32 touchdowns, only 14 interceptions, how can you not tip your hat to Baker Mayfield in terms of what he is being able to do? One thing that separates the Tampa Bay Buccaneers from others, I would say, is their defense and the way that Todd Bowles likes to get after people. This is a guy that loves to blitz. He hasn't found a blitz that he doesn't like. He is going to come after, man, against the Chargers. He came after Justin Herbert relentlessly with the pressure. And the thing that we know about the Buccaneers, regardless of what they have in the secondary, their pressure can lead to turnovers, can lead to disruption in terms of the rhythm of the offense. And so it's one of the things that you certainly have to talk about, you have to be aware of when you're dealing with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I love it. I love the way this team is coming. And if they are able to continue and finish the season the right way, yeah, they're going to win the NFC South, and they are going to be a thorn in the side of whoever lines up against them in the postseason. Final point, fourth down. We got to talk about Brock Bowers. Now, full disclosure, I'm recording this before the Monday night game where the Raiders are going to take on the Atlanta Falcons, but it's not going to sway my opinion at all. Brock Bowers should be the offensive rookie of the year. When you look at what the award represents, it's someone that is a first-year player that is having a dominant season, one that stands out. We always give it to the quarterbacks because the quarterbacks kind of curry favor when it comes to awards and those things. But when you really think about impact, Brock Bowers is most deserving of the award. And only one time has this award ever gone to a tight end, and it wasn't even the Associated Press that handed that out. It was in 1961. Mike Ditka won the United Press International version of the award, Offensive Rookie of the Year, when he had a great season where he had over 1,000 receiving yards for the Chicago Bears. Well, Brock Bowers right now is on pace to shatter that mark. He's on pace to have 1,200 receiving yards. Right now, Brock Bowers leads all tight ends, not just rookie tight ends. He leads them in targets, he leads them in catches, receiving yards, and yards after the catch. He broke Sam Laporta's rookie receiving record from a season ago with 87 catches, and he's going to crush it by season's end. And when you have an opportunity to look at the Las Vegas Raiders and you see Brock Bowers, man, this dude is everything that you look for in a tight end. He's really a jumbo receiver playing out wide, but he has the ability to do so many different things. He's a matchup nightmare. He's someone that is very difficult to defend. And to me, the award should go to someone that is dominant. When we check off the dominant stuff, where Brock Bowers is really an all-pro tight end, to me, it's easy. He's the undisputed choice of the offensive rookie of the year. And I just want to make sure he gets his props. And I want to make sure his season's in, he gets the hardware. Speaking of hardware, we don't give out hardware at the end of this show, but we like to give out helmet stickers. I can tell you when I was a kid, when I was playing in high school at Millbrook High School in Raleigh, love to get the little paw slapped on the side of the helmet because it signaled that you did something great. So this week, we want to give out a handful of helmet stickers. And the first guy that I want to give a little helmet sticker to is someone that, look, we talked about the disaster and the train wreck that the New York Jets have become. But I got a chance to witness Davante Adams turn back the clock. Davante Adams finished the game with 9 catches. He had almost 200 yards. And what's crazy about Davante Adams finishing with a stat line where he had 9 catches, 198 yards, 2 touchdowns, it all happened in the second half. They allowed the former All-Pro to go bananas in the second half. And so because he went bananas and because he sealed the game for the New York Jets, even though it's only their 4th win of the season, let's give Davante Adams a helmet sticker, recognizing him for the greatness that he put on display in terms of being able to really make it happen. Let's go to the defense side of the ball and let's give out something. I don't know if you had an opportunity to watch the Sunday night game, but there was a young defender from the Green Bay Packers that really showed up. Kingsley Enagbare, defensive end, showed up, had 2 sacks, had 5 tackles, and he was all over the place on Sunday night. His speed, his athleticism, his aggressiveness, you got to love it. And you got to love the fact that the Green Bay Packers have so many dynamic players at the point of attack. For so long, this defense has been kind of, I would say, underrated in terms of like people didn't give them enough attention, but the addition of defensive coordinator Jeff Hafley has certainly changed that. This is a team that was loaded with first-round picks. They are now playing to that level. Kingsley's not a first-round pick, but, man, he is a dominant and disruptive player. So let's give him a little helmet sticker to make sure that he is happy and he goes home with a parting gift for his work on the weekend. One final point, and we're going to call this the extra point, and there's been a lot of conversation about this since the Thursday night game. Devondre Campbell walking out on his team, refusing to go into the game. What's disappointing about this, anyone who has been around football, anyone who has been part of the fraternity, the brotherhood, you just understand that like the game is always bigger than you. And so when you sign up to play for a team, even in pro sports, when you're getting paid, it still is about the team over everything. And the best teams are ones where you sacrifice and you're really willing to play for the person to the right and to the left of you. And the pros, the guys who are really the professionals, they're able to cast aside their own personal agendas for the sake of the team. Even though Davante Campbell was certainly disappointed that he has started for the 49ers the entire year, Dre Greenlaw comes back, gets right back into the starting lineup. I understand that part of it, but he has to have enough awareness to know that Dre Greenlaw is the heart and soul of that Niners defense. Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner, they really make this defense go. And so even though they were asking you to step back, to go from being a starter to a reserve player, there was still a vital role that you were going to have to play at some point in the season, whether it was that game, whether it was later in the year, whether it's as a sub package player, short yardage, special teams, whatever that is. As a teammate, you have to do what you're supposed to do for your team by refusing to go into the game and then being kicked off and walking into the locker room before the game is over. To me, man, there's no place for that. And I don't know how you come back for that because not for the Niners. Like the Niners would never trust him. And one of the things that we always talk about in sports, commitment, accountability, and trust. Who's committed, who can be held accountable to their actions and their performance on the field. And if you're committed and accountable, then we can trust you. Well, now you question his commitment. You question, is he accountable because he wouldn't do the things that you expect him to do? And then there's no trust. And with no trust, there can be no job. And so Devondre Campbell has to go. 3-game suspension for him to finish out the season. He certainly never will play for the Niners again. And we'll see if he has an opportunity to play in the National Football League again. So that was the Bucky Brooks Show. We tackled a few different topics, had a lot of fun breaking down the action from this week. Later this week, we may preview some of the college football playoff because we have a nice menu of games on the slate. Some of these stars from these games we'll talk about in the draft. So we want to make sure we give you like a little preview to talk about the guys to watch in each of these games. Until next time, I'm Bucky Brooks, and I'm out.